intro to Python, I just want to talk about like what this programming language is, what it is used for, and literally in general what you can do with it. I've been like lately when I was preparing this workshop, I was like researching in depth. I wouldn't say my research was very in depth, but like I kind of touched on who created the language and what it was created for, and I got this kind of vibe that the language was created just like for fun. It's like a very, very, like if you just like look at all the programming languages and you want to select the most, like the one that stands out but is still popular and like serious web applications can be written with, Python is definitely that. So as for the agenda, yeah, we'll touch on like why Python was created and what it's used for. I'm going to compare Python to C# real quick and just show how cool it is and like how easy it is to use. And then just two examples is a Django app demo. So Django is a web framework for Python, and the jupyter-notebook demo. So jupyter-notebook is something data scientists use to analyze data and some data sets in their day-to-day life. And basically their storytelling tool is the jupyter-notebook. Yeah, by the way, if you have any questions, like feel free to interrupt me at any time.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Everything is fine till now.
Cool. Okay, so Python was created by this guy, Guido van Rossum. He thought that we need something better than Bash, I guess, and we want to code in some like very nice, very user-friendly way, and he created his scripting language in 1989, and his inspiration was a comic band, a British comic band. If you haven't seen them, definitely check out their videos. Monty Python Flying Circus, like they're very, some of them are just purely bad. Some of them are just hilarious, but I quite enjoy these guys, and I think it was a good inspiration for a programming language, I guess. So yeah, that's why Python. That's where the name came from. So let's actually dive in straight away and check out what Python looks like. I want to compare, like C# is probably, some of you are familiar with it, and I want to show how similar things that are written in C# could be written in Python. To start things off, this is hello world. Like on the left-hand side, that's all you need to write a hello world in Python. And on the right-hand side, this is your like giant block where you need to declare your namespace, your class, your static void main method, and all of that just to run a single like console application to run hello world. So even if you start things out and you don't know nothing about, like you don't know anything about programming, I think the left-hand side is a little bit easier to understand.
Yeah.
So yeah, like that's literally all you need to do. I'm gonna show like a more in-depth example in the repository itself. So I've created like a bunch of things here. Let me know if the font size is fine. It might make it.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I can see it.
Okay. So yeah, we have, so first thing I will explore is this Python C# comparison. So I'm going to open up some Python commands on the left and some C# example on the right. First things first, like these two programs produce almost identical results. The program on the left is 50 lines of code. Program on the right is like almost 100. Just to give you some idea, some initial idea of what Python is. So let's just go quickly through this, and so you have some understanding of what the different peculiarities. Wow, that's a difficult word. Different features of the language are. So first of all, the main difference between C# and Python is that Python does not have a notion of strong types. It has notion of types. So you have your integers, strings, arrays, but you can do whatever you want with whatever variables you want.
It's a loosely typed programming languages.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like there's no constraints of what you can assign to what. Before we begin, the way you run Python programs is when you install Python, I won't go through the installation process, but if you use a Mac OS or a Linux computer, that it's pre-installed on your machine. If you use a Windows computer, you'll need to go through some installation process, but it's not too difficult. In the end, you'll get this like Python command here. If you just run it in your terminal, you will get this interactive CLI. So here I can like print whatever I want. Like I can do operations and receive like assigned variables. This is basically your Python in a shell. But if you want to run some code, some Python code that is written in a file, what you need to do is to go to the same directory this file is in and just run Python in that file. So if I go to my directory and I run Python main.py. Oops, one more. So yeah, there's my main py, and if I run main py, will produce some result here, which is the output of this program.
Yeah.
With C#, I mean it's same deal, but you would use.
Yeah, you need to code more as compared to Python.
Sorry, what was
that? You need to code more and more. You need to type more because in C#, yeah.
Exactly. Well, there's also the .NET run command that you can run your script. So, for example, this will produce something very similar to this. So yeah, these two programs are like almost identical, and let's just go through them and see how Python compares to C-like languages. You have your in Python you have your notion of main. So this statement right here means that run the code below if this is the file that you are executing. So there's sometimes there will be cases when you import modules and import files and other files. So this code will run only if you directly execute main. Similar thing to like the entry point is your main function, so similarities there. Two ways you can declare variables in Python. You can either type hint them. Type hinting basically like provides zero value except readability. So if you want to explicitly say that you are declaring an integer, that's an option. But these two statements are completely equivalent.
Okay, so these both are like this is in the a equal to 1, that means it will automatically take data type of a as integer, and the second line says that it is kind of like you are giving data type explicitly, right?
Yeah. So both values, like Python will understand that this is an integer. If you're providing like if you're doing 1.2, this will be a float, for example, right?
Okay, yeah.
This is just for other developers that are reading your code, or for yourself to understand that this is like you're explicitly defining an integer, because in some cases it might not be so obvious what is, for example, like in this function, it's not so obvious what a is if I would not have a type hint here, right? Like I could be passing a string, I could be passing an integer, whatever it could be. In C# you need to provide a type. I mean, there is an option of declaring an implicit type, right? So like I could say something like this. There's this var keyword that stands for like literally any type, but still you need to provide something. And also semicolons. Python, like if you print a semicolon, like sure, that's gonna work, but that's not the Python way. So like the idea is that Python is very clean. You will notice it doesn't have like curly braces at all. The way it determines which block of code is running is just literally by indentation. And I think like people either think that this is beautiful or this is terrible. Sometimes it's just like a very concise way of writing something. Sometimes it's horrible to understand. Let's go on though. So when we start exploring, so here's like a string you can declare. When you start exploring complex types like lists and dictionaries, this is where like the main difference comes in. For example, in Python, you can declare a list with different types of values. Like I can have a list where I have a first item as an integer, second value as a string, third value as a Boolean. In C#, you need to declare what type of list you want to create. Like you either have list of ints or you have list of string. This gives you more flexibility, in my opinion. And sometimes, yeah, people can argue that there is less strictness in this, but just something you can do. Same goes with dictionaries. If you want to create your dictionaries, you can have values of different types. Yeah, like even this dictionary declaration, very similar to JavaScript. Like it's going to be very, very similar. I don't know, dictionaries in C# just make me want to hate myself because like you need to write this much just to declare an object with 2 keys and values. Yeah, so just the way they compare, just one line and like, I don't know, like 20 characters versus this. Let's go on and explore lists a little bit more. So in Python, a very cool thing you can do is like list generators. So if I want a list of values where every value is increasingly larger by 2, I can literally write something like this, which means give me a list where range 10 is basically like from 0 to 9.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes,
so
yes.
Every element from 0 to 9. And
it's a kind of loop.
Yeah, exactly. So I can insert loops into my list declaration. And I'm like, give me all the numbers, like twice the number for every number from 0 to 9. This produces something like this.
Yeah. I think Andre, someone also joined the class.
Yep.
Yeah, I can see that.
Oh yeah, I'll allow them to speak if they want. Hi, Shruti. Yeah. So
yeah, I can see this.
That's like a very, very nice way of declaring your, like, it's a very nice shorthand if you want to declare a list or something like that. Now this is like next, like lines 24 and 25 is what I love Python for. And it might not be like very clean or understandable sometimes, but indexing in Python is just beautiful. If you want the last element of an array, you can say like, give me the minus first element, and that's going to count from your 0th element, and so it's going to loop through to the last one and give you the last element. I think this is beautiful.
Yeah, I understand. This is kind of just indexing like in the
exactly.
PHP whenever we are accessing any.
If I need if I need an element from 1 to 3, from indexes 1 to 3 is not included. I just can write this, like that's all. I don't need to write anything else. If I want elements from like 4th element onwards, I can say L2 of 4 and onwards. I don't know, this like the Python gives me an impression of like whoever when Guido, I think, designed Python, he was designing it with the intention of like the cleanest way of writing something, a very concise way of writing something. Which just makes you look at your program and like understand you've written some beautiful code. Yeah, I think this is super cool. Nothing too exciting with ifs, fors, and whiles. Actually, before I go here, let's just quickly have a look at how it's done in C#. If you want to have a list of items that increase by 2, like you can write this, which is ugly. So just appends elements every time. There's also enumerable, so that's a much cleaner way.
Yes, yes.
But still, like, you need to have your range, then you have a select statement where you need to like include.
Yeah, lambda expression.
So I mean, it's kind of ugly in here, but still fine, still understandable. Indexing turned out to be fine. I thought it would be a pain to do in C#, but there's a get range method, turns out, which helps you a lot. Still, I think this is the most beautiful way you can index things in any programming language. Yeah, let's just quickly cover ifs and things like that. So there's no notion of switch statement in Python. If you want to write an if statement with a lot of cases, use elif. It's going to check this. Then if it doesn't match, it's going to check this, and so on. Yeah, nothing too excited, but even this kind of statement, look at how many curly braces you have. Look at how many, like, I don't know, unnecessary semicolons you have. This matches this, and like it's twice the height. I don't know. To me, to my eye, this looks much better. I understand, like, if you will have some complex behaviors, you'll probably get lost in this indentation, but if you're writing something simple, this is just beautiful. Yeah, for loops you can do like in C#, you do your starting point, your ending point, your increment. Same goes here. The range function takes a starting point, takes an ending point, and the increment you want to go with. So it's going to use the same thing. While loops, nothing too excited. Yeah, by the way, like even things like parentheses in expressions, Python emits that. Like, you don't need to wrap your expressions in parentheses. Like, that's unnecessary. This just looks clean. I don't know. This is like the cleanest way you can write something. You can hear that I'm unbiased towards Python, but like when I see some Python code, I just think it's beautiful. And last thing, let's just have a quick look at functions. So the way you declare functions in Python is you say def, which stands for like function, and just you can specify whatever parameters come here. Once again, like, you have no types. Even if I write this, which means that
the
integer
parameter 1 is type of integer, parameter 2 is type of integer, and it is gonna return integer type.
Yeah, exactly. So even if I type in this explicitly, I could still pass strings into this method. Like, it will still accept them. So yeah, a neat thing, like a benefit that comes with it, is that you don't need to overload methods. So like in C#, if I want the same methods to concatenate, like add numbers and concatenate strings, this is probably a bad example, but let's say you have a method that needs to do like two things. I need to write two methods essentially. What's this Python is like that, and it's going to accept anything. Yeah, so I think this is also a very cool way of defining your functions. So like the general pattern is like a keyword, then some kind of an expression, and then a semicolon, a colon. That means that there's going to be a block following below. Like, you can see this in if statements, also like in an expression, then a colon, and then an indented block. So that's your Python code. I don't know. See it for yourself. Try writing some Python versus C#. See what's better. I don't think, like, I think in some cases Python works out much cleaner. In some cases, you want your types and you want your strictness. Yeah. So that's how they compare. Any questions on that before we go forward? Cool. Okay. Sorry, is there?
Sorry for this noise. It was just coming from background.
Is it from my mic?
No, it is from my mic. It is from my one.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. So let's dive into the two applications of Python. First being Django. I'm going to show what Django is in like high level. I will go in some code, show how it works, but Django is basically the biggest web framework for that is written in Python. Like you can write websites with it, you can host APIs. This is what people use when they write web applications in Python.
Yeah, I worked with Flask for a temporary period.
Right. Yeah, I think Django is built on top of Flask.
Yeah. I have heard that like Django is far better than Flask.
I mean, it has much more features.
Yes. As compared to Flight, it is lightweight as well as it has like I am not sure about it. Like it has more database connectivity support. Like Flask is not supporting that much database type. Not sure. I'm not sure.
If you're using Flask, you will need to set up a lot of things yourself. But Django just gives you a lot of things for free. So most of what is in this folder, Django sample folder.
Yeah.
Let me make this a bit bigger. Most of what's in this folder was generated for me. Like I did not create all of these files. I needed to. So like when you install Django, you install it with pip. You just pip install.
Install Django.
Django, yeah. So it's already. Yeah, it's probably pip. It's already installed, so it's not going to do anything. Yeah. That's how you install packages in Python, by the way. So
pipe install and then after package name.
Yeah, exactly. So that's your package manager, and it gives you some CLI functionality straight off the bat. So you can create your project straight from the get-go. So here I created this Django sample application. It has your entry point which is manage.py.
Okay.
You run manage.py to literally spin off anything in your application. You can run migrations. You can basically create users. You can run the shell. You can host the web server.
Yeah.
But this is your entry point.
Okay, so
Django is very
is it compulsory to name this file as manage.py in Django, or we can just write anything and mention the start?
I don't think there is a requirement for that. I think it's more of a convention. Like I could rename this file and it should still be fine. Because when you run it, so let me actually spin up the server. You actually run Python manage.py, and then you say, what do you want to do? So in my case, I'm going to just run server, and this will produce me a local host. Yeah, I don't have a /route configured, so it's going to give me a 404.
Yeah.
But it says that it found like 2 routes I can go to. So if, for example, if I go to the polls route, I will have a list of my polls or like my questions. I don't know. This could be anything, right? Like these models could be anything. Just for demonstration purposes, that you could configure routes and render some HTML on them. So just to go a little bit back, Django is an MVC pattern framework.
Okay.
Like if you've written any ASP.NET or any other, actually, I don't know.
Yeah, I understand.
Any other web frameworks, it's very similar. You have your models that define the business logic, the data that you receive, and you have your views that are the HTML files and that render all of the data that you want to show your users, and you have your controllers which bind the two, right? They flow the data from your models, from your database to the views.
Yeah.
So
Like for running a Django application, we need to issue command with passing a file name as a parameter, right?
yeah, exactly. So like you when you want to do anything with Django when you started the application, you literally run python manage.py, and then you pass something to it. It could run server. For example, let me explain the project structure first, and then I'll show some examples. So your initial folder is basically your project folder, and then you can connect some different apps to your folder. So this is called an app in Django, and it contains some knowledge about a bit of business rules in your application. So for example, in my case, I wanted to create some like polling system and have some questions and answers, for example. So you'll see it auto creates like a lot of files for you.
Yeah.
I probably won't go over all of them. The main ones are URLs that define what URLs will be visible for you when you go to /polls. So for example, when I went to /polls, I didn't need to enter anything.
Okay.
Which corresponds to this, right? Like this this means that
it's a root.
The index would be to bounce to here. You can write your tests for anything you want. You have your models, which I was talking about here. Here you just define your model as a class. So Python also has some object-oriented programming reports. So you can define your classes in here. Yeah. So all you need to do is like define a class, give it a name, and then define a bunch of parameters. Yeah. Okay. So even though Python doesn't have types, you will need to specify type hinting.
I see.
So the char field or a date time field, that's going to mean that's the type of data that's going to be saved in your SQL or SQLite or whatever database you're using.
Okay, so technically the meaning of this code is like at the during execution, it will be having a kind of question model with two entities. One is question underscore text, and second one is a published date. And according to its data type as well as date time field. What is the meaning of date published? You have passed in parameter bracket in single quote.
This is the name. This is basically what the name will be. I mean, these are the properties of the model that you're creating. Right? Like you can name them whatever you want. This is specifying the length of this max length of the string that can be contained in this property. This is some metadata about these fields.
Okay.
Yeah, so let's actually see how you can manipulate these models. If you run manage.py with shell, this will produce an interactive shell where you can like basically look into your database and look into your models and interact with them. So if I, for example, import this question class from this models file, so I can do that by saying import from polls models, I want to import question. Then I can say something like question objects. So give me all the objects of question. And I already have two here in my database. These corresponds to these two that we can see on the rows.
This was great.
So the reason it shows first here is because of this stir method. Like this is also another beautiful thing of Python and languages like C++. You can override how different objects are represented. Like I could say something like read spam and then concatenate it to this. And if I would run this again, we would get I'll probably need to rerun this. Yeah, I would get like spam first and then spam this was right. Like this represents how this defines how this object is being represented. Anyway, this is like detail. Yeah, here you could create your new things. Like I could define a new question.
Okay.
I could say like question, let's say question text is equal. I'm actually wondering if it's going to allow me to create an empty date here. No, it needs a date. Actually, I'm gonna show another way of doing this.
Okay.
You could create objects through the shell, but another cool thing Django allows you to do is like it gives you admin functionality straight away. You could register your models with admins, and what this means is that in your admin dashboard you would be able to navigate and add or delete some models from there. So if you recall, another route that was exposed is /admin. So if I go to /admin, I have already created a user, so it's going to automatically log me in. But you can see that there is some like groups users that it's creating for you automatically, so you don't need to manage that. And also there is our questions here. So like if I want to, I can look what is in my database. I can add a new question, and like say whatever I want. Save it. Here's my new question. Now, if I go back to polls, it's going to render all of them. Let's actually see how this is done. So this is some HTML that you render based on the data you have.
Yeah.
So the index HTML is being stored in this templates questions file folder. It literally says like render me an unordered list of list items. And this uses some basically it's a Python templating language. So for each question and question list, and I'm going to show how this is being passed, give me the question text of each of that question. The way this variable appears in scope is from views.py.
Okay.
So if you recall, actually, if we look into URLs, on the empty route of false, which is the directory we're in, render me the views index. So views index is the function that defines what needs to be rendered. Question object call, we have already seen this in the shell command. So you can grab all the questions and create a template from our index.html file. And then the context that is being passed to that template. So the context says question list, and what do we want to pass to this variable of question list. And this corresponds directly to index.html's question list, right? Like this variable corresponds one-to-one to this definition. So yeah, you can like grab all your questions, pass them to your HTML files, render something. And this is like very, very simple, but you can imagine that there might be some more complex queries that you will be able to do and more complex views that you can create. This is the basic, this is the basis of Django and how MVC works with Python. I think like this is kind of a very a beginner-friendly way of doing MVC. Like you are overwhelmed with like the structure and a lot of files, but each of them just define what they need. Like this models.py just defines the model, and that's pretty much it. In the views, you only define controllers you want, things like that. I don't know. If you have any questions, I can go more in depth on something. But else I'm going to move on. This is how you do web development in Python, basically, or at least from what I know. Cool. Before I go into Jupyter and like some data science topics, I want to show a little bit of like fun stuff with Python. Python is probably the only language I know that has Easter eggs built into it. So I'm going to show a couple of them. If I run Python, this will give me just the interactive shell. So yeah, I can run anything in here, right? I've already shown that I can like do expressions and calculate things. So the way you import modules in Python is you use the import statement. And I can import anything. Like you've seen that you can specify the module you want to import and the thing you want to import from that module. So the first Easter egg is basically the case when you try to import this. And if you type import this, it's going to give you some like basic guidelines of how to write the code. I think this is pretty cool. Like if you read this out, these are pretty interesting ideas, and possibly like Tim Peters is one of the developers of and one of the creators of Python. He contributed to the language really significantly, and I think he like had a good job of coming up with a list of guidelines how to write your code. It's called the Zen of Python. Like it really, like, I won't go through each of these, but like readability counts and simple is better than complex. So each of these describe how you would write code in a way that is good for other people to read and for you to maintain. Yeah, I just think this is kind of cool. Another Easter egg is if you basically go and try to import, I think if you import anti-gravity, is that the one? Yeah, it takes you to a meme on the internet. Like if you import a module, it takes you to a meme. Like, have you seen this in any other programming language? I don't know. This is just like makes me smile. I learned how to fly. Like Python is so amazing. Yeah, shout out to XKCD. Like they have pretty cool comics as well. Like if you want to go through them.
Okay.
Yeah, like this this is literally just some fun stuff built into the language. Another interesting thing is this future module. For example, there is two main versions of Python. There's Python 2.7, like Python 2, and Python 3. And they have different syntax. And right now there's like a big merge, a big change of going from Python 2 to Python 3. And the way they facilitated this change is you could basically import stuff from future. So you would say something like import, like from future import print, for example. And it's going to say that future feature is not defined just because I'm in Python 3. But if you would be in Python 2 and you would be trying to like import something from Python 3, you would be able to do it from future, which is kind of cool. And if you're trying to, so you notice that Python doesn't use curly braces. I think if you try to import braces from future, it might be either braces or something else. Yeah, it gives you a syntax error with a not a chance. Like somebody went and wrote an if statement just to like emphasize that Python won't run with braces. Never. I think this is great. I don't know. Like if anything, I want you to like leave this workshop with understanding that like Python is a fun programming language. Like if you write stuff with Python, you will just have fun and smile. Or you will try to kill yourself because some of your types don't match, but that's on a side note. Anyway, this is kind of fun, and I think it's a nice thing to include in any kind of project you're doing. I'm gonna go, like, the last thing I'm gonna cover is Jupyter notebooks, and this is a very large use case of Python as well. If you will look into like data science community, Jupyter notebooks, and actually Python in general is used a lot to do some machine learning models, some AI stuff. Visualizations is another one. Like if you want to create a dashboard that displays some data, that's Python is a good language to use. Let me show you an example of a Jupyter notebook just online, so you can have an understanding of what people use it for.
Yeah, okay.
So, whoops. So if I a nice site is Kaggle.com. Like I really enjoying looking for some inspirational projects here. Kaggle.com, let me just sign in real quick. Kaggle is a collection of data science problems that either you want to solve for your benefits to learn something, or there's actually competitions. Like you can see that there's different challenges that are presented to you with actual like money prizes that you need to solve. I don't know, let's go to like, if I want to just to look at the data set. Yeah, there's different notebooks that you can explore. I don't know, there's a lot of scary words, but just to show you what a notebook is. Hope this is a good one. Yeah, so a Jupyter notebook is a merge between a markdown and the code you can run. So you can see that the people describe what they are doing in their markdown, and also like there's some code snippets you can unhide and see. And if I want to run through this, I can like actually see a step-by-step of what the person was doing and what the output was. So like he was reading some CSV files and he got some data. And then they went on, done some visualizations with Matplotlib and things like that. So Jupyter notebooks are used for storytelling in the majority of the cases. If you want to publish it somewhere and have like, if you analyze some data and you want to talk about it, show you a step-by-step process, is a very, very good way of doing it. Let me show you how to set it up on your machine. So this last folder, Jupyter sample, is the one that contains just one notebook. There's nothing fancy, some checkpoints. Probably should ignore those. So yeah, let's go into this folder. And the way you install Jupyter notebooks is with pip install notebook. I already have it, also pip3 for my case. Already have it, so it's just gonna like say a bunch of requirements already satisfied. But it will go, like if you want to follow along, you can like go ahead and install this. This will allow you to run something like Jupyter Notebook. And you can run this anywhere you want, in any folder at all. This will open up this page view, where this is basically a file view, right? Like I could create some folders and files. The only one that is in here right now is this wine.ipynb. And this is a Jupyter notebook, so you can see that I prepared some examples right here. I don't know, this is pretty intuitive. You can add cells. So like I can go here and write something out. I can run this cell, it will give me some output. So it's very, very interactive. If I want to like describe something, I can mark the cell as markdown and then say this print to whatever. So even might not look very nice, but it's a very nice, like, it's a very good way for you to describe what you're doing in a step by step. Like, this looks much better than just pure code with comments in it. And if you want to like post it somewhere or reference people to it, it's a very, very good way. Just to give you an idea of what's happening in here is like, Pandas is a very big data science library in Python. So you will see it's being used all over the place. It allows you to store data sets, like query some parameters, like group by, sorting some values, some tables, and things like that. So Scikit-Learn is another one which is used for machine learning in general. Like, you can do some classifications problems and regression problems with it. And it contains some default data sets you can work with, which you can see that I'm just importing one of them in here. Wine is a data set. I'm not sure where it comes from, but it basically describes a bunch of wines in Italy and what each of them contain based on like elements and stuff. But you can see that you could see this in another example where you want to analyze your data set that comes from some other source. You want to see what's in your data. Yeah, this is another example. Like, I can plot some data with Pandas. I can do a bar chart. Like, it has a very cool built-in functionality. Like, I don't need to define anything or draw anything, literally just say plot and the kind of plot I want to draw. Like, this could be a bar plot as well, possibly. Oh, right, I need to run everything. That's another thing. Like, if I run cells in isolation, they don't have references to the previous ones. So right now it told me the data is not defined because, like, yeah, data was defined in the previous cell. I could just run all of them, I think. Let's see. Run all. Ooh, I wonder if that. Oh, I probably did not install Pandas on this computer. Actually, let's go through this. So it's telling me there's no module called Pandas. So the way I would do this is with pip3 install pandas. So we'll do a bunch of installations for me. It's going to also like download Numpy and some other libraries it depends on. So yeah, we should be able to just run jupyter-notebook to spin off our server. It's getting there. All right.
Yeah, now, yeah, it's.
Here's our wine dataset notebook. Cool.
Yeah, now we can see this.
All right. So now if I rerun this, it should just, let's run all cells. Should just produce the same output that we've seen before. This will take some time. My computer is trying to fly right now. But yeah, you can see that this is producing this box plot. If I change this to bar, let's see what happens. It produce like a different kind of plot. Let's see. Let's give it a minute. Yeah, there's a lot of data, and you'll see that like all the labels are like squashed.
Yeah.
This is the idea. So you can produce different visualizations. There's Seaborn is a cool library. Matplotlib is a nice library for visualizing your data. But that's like if it interests you and you want to grab some tables, some CSV files, and you want to throw them, do some heat maps or do some analysis on them, and you want to use some real code to do it, that's the way to go. Like I would just spin up a Jupyter notebook and explore the data if I want to learn more about it. But yeah, that's all I have for this presentation. Let me know if you have any questions. Let me know if you want to hear about anything else. Like I could go more in depth into Django. We could do a workshop on that. I could explore some Pandas hands-on and things like that. I don't know. I really like Python as a programming language, and I would love to do more workshops on it as well.